opened my eyes, the cold glint of a knife right before me, and I fell back onto the couch in terror. My heart pounded. Was I already dead? The last thing I remembered was Sandra's husband stabbing me over 20 times, and my own husband, Xavier, looking down at me with disgust. He had pushed my hand away in my final moments, saying coldly, "She killed her baby, so she deserves it. An eye for an eye, a life for a life." The editor reminds you. Search 21,631 on the GoodNovel app to read the full story. Wonderful content continues to play. Part 3. The following morning, I woke up early, my mind already sharp and focused. Today was about laying more pieces of the puzzle, making sure every move I made further tightened the net around them. I looked at myself in the mirror, noticing the calm yet cold expression I wore. This was not the face of the old Lily. This was someone new, someone reborn, with a purpose. Downstairs, Xavier was already readying himself, adjusting his tie in the mirror. He caught my reflection as I walked into the room, and for a moment, his gaze softened, almost as if he was seeing me as the wife he once knew. I matched his gaze but didn't return the warmth. It made him shift uncomfortably, and I relished that small victory. "Good morning," he said, his voice hesitant. "Morning," I replied curtly. I didn't need to pretend to be sweet anymore. Not today. Just as expected, Sandra soon arrived. She was standing at the door with that same meritocracy polite smile, holding a thermos and greeting Xavier with a cheerfulness that set my teeth on edge. "Good morning, Xavier. I brought some tea for you," she said, her voice dripping with sweetness. I glanced at the thermos and then at Sandra, a smile curving my lips as I stepped between them, taking the thermos from her hands. "How kind of you, Sandra," I said. "You really know how to look out for my husband." She blinked, taken aback. Well, I just thought Xavier might need." "Oh, he definitely needs it," I said, my voice silky smooth. "You know how tiring work can be. But Sandra, you must be exhausted too. Waking up early, getting here, trying so hard every day. It must be very taxing." I smiled wider, watching her expression falter, confusion clouding her eyes. Xavier cleared his throat, stepping forward. "Lily, let's not make a scene. We need to get going." I turned to him, my gaze sharp. "A scene, Xavier, I'm just being polite. After all, Sandra's been such a good friend to you." I handed the thermos back to him, my smile freezing in place. "Why don't you drink up before we leave? It's a long drive after all." He hesitated, his eyes darting from me to Sandra, whose smile had turned brittle. I watched as he opened the thermos and took a cautious sip. The tension between us felt like it could snap at any moment, but he swallowed the tea and I turned away satisfied. They were on edge, and that's exactly where I wanted them. As we drove, I sat in the back seat, watching the two of them exchange awkward glances. They were unsettled, and it thrilled me. I needed to keep them both off balance to ensure they never knew what to expect from me. "Sandra, dear," I spoke up suddenly, and she flinched slightly before looking back at me. "Why don't you tell me more about your work? It must be so interesting working so closely with Xavier." She gave a nervous laugh. "Oh, it's really just regular office work. Xavier's been very helpful though. I couldn't ask for a better senior." "I'm sure," I said, my voice dripping with an edge that made her shift uncomfortably. "He's always been very accommodating." Xavier's eyes met mine in the mirror, his jaw tightening. "Lily, that's enough. Let's just have a quiet drive." I ignored him, leaning forward slightly. "You know, Sandra, if you ever need anything at all, you can always ask me. I want to make sure my husband's co-workers are well taken care of." Sandra stammered out a thank you, clearly unsure of what to make of my offer. I sat back satisfied. I needed her to feel indebted to me, to know that I was always watching, always one step ahead. Later that evening, after we returned home, Xavier tried to confront me. The moment the front door closed, he turned, his face filled with frustration. "Lily, what are you doing? Why are you acting like this?" he demanded, his voice slow but intense. I looked at him, tilting my head to the side. "Like what, Xavier?" "Like someone who cares about her husband. Someone who wants to make sure the people around him are trustworthy." He shook his head, stepping closer. "This isn't you. You're not like this. You're being cruel." I laughed, to sound harsh. "Cruel, Xavier?" I barely started. "You don't even know the meaning of cruelty yet." I stepped closer, my eyes locking with his. "But you will." His face fell, the color draining slightly from his cheeks. I could see the doubt creeping in, the fear that perhaps I knew more than he had thought. He reached for me, but I slapped his hand away. "Don't," I snapped, my voice cold as ice. "You lost the right to touch me the moment you betrayed me." "I didn't." I cut him off, my voice rising. "I know everything, Xavier. I know what you and Sandra have been doing. You think I'm blind? You think I'm stupid?" He swallowed, taking a step back. "Lily, please just listen." I shook my head, my gaze hard. "No, you listen. This is just the beginning. You have no idea what's coming, but I promise you by the time I'm done you'll wish you had never crossed me." For a moment, there was silence. Xavier stared at me, his eyes wide with something akin to fear. Then he turned and walked away, heading upstairs without another word. I watched him go, my heart pounding with adrenaline. This was just the start. I had plans that would ensure neither he nor Sandra would ever forget what they had done to me. This time, I wasn't going to be the victim. This time, I was going to be the one pulling the strings, and I wouldn't stop until I had torn their lives apart just like they had done to me. Want to know more? Search 21,631 on the GoodNovel app to read the full story.